Hi, I'm Realtor Bert Taddei. I'm also broker owner of Santino Properties LLC here in San Antonio, and I'm here to talk to you today about multiple sclerosis. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, didn't you just finish saying that you're licensed in the real estate business? What can you possibly know about being licensed in the medical profession, right? Well, those are all fair and valid points, but here I'm here to tell you that I have a unique perspective that not even the neurologist can tell you about, and that is that I was diagnosed with the illness February 2nd, 2008. So I talk a lot about transparency and honesty with the public in a lot of my videos. If you've followed my content for the past couple of years, or you have subscribed to my channel, and if you haven't, be sure to subscribe now. Right? I'm giving you really good educational content, not always about medicine, right? But this is for that reason, right? Is to kind of share a little something honest and truthful about me and some of the things that I live with on a day-to-day basis. Now, this is not to at any point or way, shape, or form to try to complain, because not even my wife hears me complain. I complain to nobody. I'm perfectly well. I'm blessed. The good Lord has blessed me with a good health and sound mind. My mind's about as sharp as it's ever been, right? And my illness certainly doesn't get in the way of me doing my job, right? It came up because I was visiting some clients recently, and one of them said, "Hey, what happened to your leg?" Because I walk. If you know me, you know that I walk with a limp, right? My gait has been affected by my illness, and they call it a drop leg or drop foot, or I don't know, something like that, or whatever. I just call it, everyday life, whatever. Just move on. And I was like, well, actually, and I sat down next to him, and he's kind of like looking at me like, what is this? I said, I have MS, and he's like, oh, really? And I was like, and it almost looked like he was like concerned or something. I'm like, you know what? Let me just stop you right there. The last thing I want is for you to, feel bad for me, or because I'm not a pitiful person. I don't want anybody's pity, But at the same time, I had to kind of explain to him, and I wasn't gonna do like I used to do, 10, even 15 years ago when I was first diagnosed, and tell him, wow, I hurt my leg, and I'll be okay, and I'll just, what for? Because it's not true, right? So to be truthful, I've lived with the illness, and I've got some things that are also invisible. They're not easily discernible by the eye, that affect me as well internally. But you know what? Again, I'm blessed. If you know me from my videos, you know that I cycle every single day, right? Between 60 and 80 miles a week, I'm proud to say. And so I'm on my bike every single day. I was on my bike this morning, right? 10, 11, 12 miles, whatever it was. Every single day. In fact, when it rained, the only time I don't ride is when it rains, because it was one morning like 3 or 4 years ago in the springtime. There's like that morning dew on the ground and the pavement. And I took a turn a little too fast, and I slipped. The bike came out from under me and landed on my shoulder, and I dislocated it. And it was just a mess, right? Anyway. So it was so I the only time I don't ride is when it's raining, right? So here lately we've had some storms, and I'll either wait till it dries up, or I'll just wait till tomorrow, right? But every day I tell myself, hey, look, I get to ride my bike today. It's never I have to. Oh, it's getting late. I have to ride my bike. I get to. A lot of folks in my community, unfortunately, are confined to wheelchairs. They have walkers, canes, and so forth, and they don't have the balance, right? Frankly, to be able to ride like I do. So when I ride in Bike MS, I raise funds for the society, National Multiple Sclerosis Society. On the back, with the number, you kind of pin it to your back, and on the back it says, "I ride for blank," and they give you a marker, you can write it in, and I always put in for those of us who cannot. Because frankly speaking, it's not all of us are as blessed as I am, and they're in a different stage of the illness. Again, here I am, 16 years later, and I feel great. So I want to tell you a little something about it. Now that I told you a little bit about me. So MS is multiple sclerosis. And what is the sclerosis? Well, it's the scarring, right? It's an autoimmune disease. So basically what happens is that the body, that my immune system attacks the good tissue, and in doing so, so I'm gonna show you an example, right? So imagine that this pink wire, for demonstrative purposes, I've cut up this wire. This pink wire is an axon. It's a nerve, right? Well, we have a sheathing, myelin sheathing around that axon that protects the nerve, right? So what happens is that there is a certain protein that is found in this myelin sheath, and for some reason or another, my immune system detects that as a foreign invader, and it goes to work. It thinks it's fighting off a foreign invader, when actually what it's doing is it's attacking, and it's basically causing a scarring or sclerosis, not unlike this. As you can see, I cut the wire like that. Okay, you see that? How the that's the axon, or the nerve inside, and you see the myelin sheath has now been exposed, or it's been compromised. You see that? How I raised that a little bit. So now that's the sclerosis, or the scarring. So what happens is that we have, my gosh, millions, I guess, of nerves that are sending signals from all over our bodies to our brain, right? And so when there's a scarring in whatever part of the body, that's interrupting the flow of information from that part of the body to the brain. It's interrupted by the scarring. It's not firing correctly, right? So when you have that, then what results in that is some sort of disability, or there's some sort of physical manifestation, right? So in my case, I have a scarring or sclerosis here on my caudal medulla, right? The spinal, the top of the spinal cord, right? So it's the brain stem, the spinal cord. So they call it the thoracic and the cervical spine, right? Cervical and thoracic spine. So it's in here in the thoracic spine, and I have a scarring there. So what it does is it interrupts the flow of information down to my leg, right? And that's why I have the drop foot and whatever they call it. So anyway, that's really how it works. There's the scarring or sclerosis, and it's in multiple areas, right? And I have been on the same medication, right? When I was diagnosed 16 years ago in February, my doctor, my neurologist at the time, I mean, I was very naive. I said, doctor, I don't know if I feel totally comfortable having those drugs, running through my system. And I wasn't really a medication taking type of person, And I hadn't been sick before. And it took, almost 9 months for them for me to have that second attack, right? Second clinical episode, as they call it, right? And he said, okay, Bert, well, now that we know what it is, because I had multiple spots on my brain, in the ER and whatever. So the second time I went in, second attack, they did another MRI scan. And I've been in that MRI tube, I don't know, 100 times in my life, because you just have to keep monitoring the disease and the progression and so forth, right? So anyway, the second time around, I had the baseline MRI, and then in 2007, and then I had the baseline, and then in February, 9 months later, I had another attack, and they did another MRI, and they saw more spots in my brain. Okay, so the baseline was the spots in the brain. I could have been born with those spots in my brain, but more spots says that, okay, well, this is an active disease, and it's demyelination, right? We can definitively say it's MS. So now let's attack it, right, with this disease modifying therapy, which, by the way, it's a fancy word for drug, right? At least I have the drugs, right? I mean, because the days of Richard Pryor, Annette Funicello, they died from complications of my illness, back in the day where there was no medication. Ray Kroc from McDonald's, his sister had MS. He donated millions of dollars to MS research. Anyway, so he said, well, definitively, going back to my story, he says, well, Bert, my neurologist at the time says, okay, well, I can help you shop for a disease modifying therapy or drug right now. Or in a few years from now, I can help you shop for an ambulatory assisted device. Maybe a nice cane or a nice walker, perhaps even a wheelchair. Which would you prefer? I mean, come on, you put it to me that way. Okay, fine. I'll go with the drug. And this is, I mean, I've been on, this is my fifth drug, but I mean, I started taking it in 2012 when it was the first pill that had ever been approved by the FDA for my illness. So I'm immunosuppressed. It keeps my lymphocytes down, right? My white blood cells to fight infection, and it suppresses my immune system. So therefore, I'm immunosuppressed, and that's what keeps the flare-ups from coming around so often. And frankly, I'm doing so well on this drug after 12 years that I can't imagine ever being on a different drug. I'm just very fortunate, right? Those of us, unfortunately, that are a different stage of progression or disability, just didn't have that quick diagnosis. I was blessed. I was living in Chicago at the time, actually, the Chicago suburbs, and we had excellent care. And I became an MS ambassador there in the Chicago area, and I would talk to newly diagnosed patients, just as I was an obsession for that. When I was first diagnosed, and it was tremendously helpful. It was super helpful. And so I wanted to also help out, so I became an MS ambassador. I even tried it here in San Antonio with a local National MS Society chapter. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I wanted to share with you my journey with MS, and like I said, I'm doing very well now on my medication that I've been on for 12 years, and I live a very active and a very productive lifestyle. And again, it doesn't affect my work. I'm very, very blessed to say, and I'm feel very, very lucky and very fortunate to be able to work with a lot of terrific people in my line of work, and I forge a lot of really terrific relationships, right? And I'm also an authority in my field, and authority on the subject of real estate, right? I've become an expert, 10 years now, just about a couple months shy of 10 years, and I'm really excited and proud to say that. And I've met some really terrific people in this real estate business. Got my broker's license a few years back, and opened up Santino Properties as a full service brokerage last year, and it's been a really terrific experience. This is just one of 3 companies that I'm currently running. So very productive guy. Feel very, very blessed. I thank God above for his many blessings upon myself and my family. So thanks for watching my video, and hopefully this information about MS has been helpful for you, and my explanation on what the myelin sheath is, and the axon and the nerve and so forth, and hopefully that demonstration was interesting for you. And I can never answer any questions about MS because I've gone through the journey. I often have folks reach out to me and ask me, "Hey, my cousin was just diagnosed. Do you mind if I have him or her call you?" And my answer is always yes. I'm always willing to help out someone in my community. So reach out to me if I can ever be of assistance in MS. Talking to someone that has been diagnosed with MS, or that has perhaps a suspicion that maybe they could be going through similar symptoms. I had a client that came out and disclosed to me a few years back that she had been diagnosed with MS. I helped her and her husband when they moved here from Laredo buy a house. Very, very nice lady, and I wish her well. And so if I can ever answer any questions about MS or real estate, of course, reach out to me. I'm always able to help. 210-376-TALK. Again, thanks for watching my video, and I'm Realtor Bert Taddei.